Building your wealth does not only consist of following process to organize and automate your finances. There are other aspects that should definitely be included or considered at least along your financial journey. One of the most important things you can do is educate yourself and train your mind to identify traps that could potentially destroy your hard work. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Reese, and in today's video, I'm going to be discussing the wealth effect, which is a common trap that people fall into while building their wealth. In simple terms, the wealth effect is the idea that people will spend more as they become richer, or perceive themselves to be richer through the value of their assets rising. The suggested reason that this occurs is because as people build their wealth, they become more financially secure, which in turn makes them more confident about their financial position. The concept is generally drawn from experiences. So let's use someone's asset as an example, an investment property, shares, or cryptocurrency. All three of these things, imagine the scenario where they rise in value. You are going to feel pretty good about that. You're going to see the charts going up. You're going to see the valuation of a home be worth more. It's going to make you feel really good. But their fixed costs haven't really changed. Nothing's changed in terms of their expenditure. So why would they spend more money? And I will answer that in just a moment. But to set the scene, I have actually noticed during this current crypto bull run, we'll use that as an example. It's been very interesting. I have noticed people who have made significant returns on their investments into these cryptocurrencies. I've noticed a higher level of affluence in their behavior. And it's been quite interesting to watch because the outcome of these people's behavior have shifted from a regular spending routine to a more lavish and lush lifestyle, depending on how much they've made and the age that they're at, of course. And just to really hit home, the main reason why I wanted to make this video was because I myself have found myself falling into this trap. I have noticed a difference in my behavior based on an investment I made, or a few investments I made over the past year, which have performed really quite well. And for me personally, what I have noticed is an increase in spending myself. I am spending money on things that I usually or never would spend money on, which is kind of frightening. For example, I am eating out a lot more than I usually would. And the key thing to understand here is it's not necessarily that I'm just going out more frequently to eat. It's that when I go out to eat, I will spend more than I usually would. And it's not necessarily about the money. I'm in a position that I can do that, but it's not who I am. The real ticking point, the moment that I had like a revelation, I had an epiphany, we'll use the word epiphany, I realized that this was actually starting to get out of hand was when I was considering buying a brand new car, and not a cheap car, a brand new car, which is not me whatsoever. Why the hell am I even thinking about doing this? I drive a great car that works perfectly fine. Why is this idea going through my head? And I've realistically tied it down to the value of that portfolio that I had invested. I was at a point where I was looking pretty interestedly. I was considering purchasing something, and I just don't need it. It's not who I am. It's not what I want to spend my money on, for example. I have other ambitions and things that I want to put my money into, but I was considering it because of the value of that portfolio. The key thing to understand about the wealth effect is that just because the value of your asset has risen does not mean you now have more disposable income. If there's anything you take away from this video, that is what I need you to understand. Your disposable income technically isn't changing just because the value of an asset has risen. Until you actually sell that asset for a profit, pay the tax and any fees associated with that sale, that big bulky number is meaningless. It should not be considered as part of your disposable income or part of your decision to make lifestyle decisions to go out and spend more money more frequently. The reason is because technically the value of that asset can crash back down to nothing. I actually know someone who went through this in the 2017 crypto bull market. We're still on the topic of crypto. It's such a great recent example. I had a friend who invested $2,000 into a very specific cryptocurrency, which made him anywhere between $50,000 and $100,000 from what I remember, which is a massive return. That is huge, especially for someone who was around about the age of 18 at the time. And he didn't sell a single dollar. During that time that the portfolio had risen, which was the span of about a year, I noticed a change in his lifestyle. He was definitely spending money on things that he probably shouldn't have been spending money on. And as an 18-year-old, it wasn't hard for him to be influenced by the temptations of things that he wanted to buy. Looking at that portfolio, he sat there and he was like, great, I can afford these things. I can buy these things. And then it crashed down to nothing. Not only nothing, he lost his $2,000 because again, he didn't sell anything. He thought, I'm just going to hold it. I'm going to hold it and hold it. And here we are 4 years later. I'm pretty sure he did eventually sell it for absolutely nothing, like less than $10 is what it crashed down to. So it was an absolute shit coin. But the moral of the story here is that he had put himself in an uncomfortable position because he had now increased his spending based off of the wealth effect, based off of the value of his portfolio, which, like I just said, was meaningless at the time. And the outcome from his story is that I noticed a shift in his attitude. He had changed quite dramatically to the point that he was having withdrawals from the spending habits that he had developed. And he no longer had that portfolio that he could sell to get out of that, we'll call it a rut. So what did he inevitably do? He worked and he saved quite well. He started eating into his savings, which overall, from the last time I saw him, he seems to be doing okay, but at the time, it definitely put him in a worse off position. So why am I telling you this and why should you care? The wealth effect is primarily good for an economy. It generally sees people spending more money, which means more tax, which means more money in the government's piggy bank. And then the latter also happens as well, where businesses also make money too. It's also good for the value of markets like the share market, the crypto market, and the property market, where we usually see the price of assets inflate or rise, which makes people happy. It gives everyone this sense of euphoria that, hey, my investment is green, no matter what you're investing in, which is where we're currently living at the time of recording this video. In Australia anyway, I'm seeing a lot of this happen, whether it be with property, the share market, or cryptocurrency. But it is somewhat detrimental for you, the consumer. Think about this scenario just as an example. You own a house and house prices have risen 20%. How amazing does that seem? You've just added 20% to your wealth, technically in valuation, because that's what your house is being valued at now. But this is actually detrimental for two very simple reasons. The first reason is that you decide not to sell your house. So the value of your house doesn't actually matter. So the house price has gone up 20%, you've increased your spending due to the wealth effect, but you're not selling your house. Therefore, you've just shifted your habits to a point that is kind of going to be detrimental to you if you've just increased your spending off of the high of the value of your house going up. It seems far-fetched, but generally I've seen this happen with a lot of people and I kind of agree with it. The other scenario that's going to occur is that you go, oh my God, my house is worth 20% more. That means I could technically go and buy another house, which is going to be an upgrade hopefully, and then I can sell my house for the deposit for that house. Great. But what people don't understand or consider most of the time is that most houses go up 20% in those types of booms. So you're going to go and buy a house for 20% more than what it would actually cost. And if you know how to work with percentages, the higher the value of the house, let's say it's $1 million house you're going to buy, and you're going to add 20% to that. So it's going to be a $1.2 million house. That's going to be more expensive than buying a $500,000 house with a 20% markup, which again is going to put you in a position potentially of difficulty because you're going to be taking on new debt that you might not necessarily have needed for the reason or the perception that you have now made money on your initial your investment or your property being that 20% rise. You're putting yourself in a harder position than you necessarily want to be in. They are extreme scenarios, but they are there to set the scene. And the most obvious detrimental effect of the wealth effect is that it generally pushes people's saving rates down. If you have a good process and structure to approaching savings, great. Don't stop, because it means that you are probably doing the best thing for you. You're in a routine, you've built a habit, and your savings rate should continue regardless of this inflated price of your assets or this new income that you might be earning. This is the key thing to understand here, is that having control of your finances and having a system that works for you shouldn't change your spending habits, because for the people who don't have them, there's statistics out there. You can look it up, look up the wealth effect. You can actually look up charts from studies that have been done that show that people's savings rates actually go down during times of boom. During times of boom. Yeah, boom, boom. But in general, it's potentially bad to building your wealth or the plan that you might be trying to execute to build your wealth. So with your now newly established knowledge of what the wealth effect is, have a think and see if you fall into this category or if you have any concerns about your spending habits over the past 12 months. That's probably a good indicator of a time period where there's been a lot that's happened. Things have gone up, things have gone down, depending on where you live in the world. It might be applicable to you. Have a think. And if something needs to change because you've noticed something that you might not like you've increased your spending in a specific area that you're not happy doing that, by all means, do what you want to do. This isn't financial advice, but if you notice something like I did with my eating out, make a change. Actually start taking some steps to putting yourself in a better position. And the outcome should be that you basically remain financially stable, hopefully, and you come out of it on top. That's the main thing that I'm trying to push here, is for you to understand that this could be detrimental if you don't actually notice yourself falling into this trap. And that is pretty much it. This video was intended to help me reflect on my behavior based on the wealth effect and what's been happening over the past 12 months. I hope that it's given you some insight and potentially something to think about as well. If you enjoyed today's video, please down below, subscribe and like this video. It really helps the channel grow, and I really do appreciate the support. And with that being said, have a good day, have a good week, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.